Alright, y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it's worth. Let's get this merch. Subscribe to the PDH Network. Alright, y'all see what we got going on here. As y'all see the thumbnail, y'all read the title. Under the thumbnail, yeah man, today's video is dealing with the untimely demise of Chicago's own Duke the Jeweler, and how Duke's girlfriend feel that Boosie, he knew a little more. She feel that Boosie knew that J.Prince Jr. MobTies had something to do with Duke being set up in H-Town. See, I don't think that's true, man. I believe Boosie properly informed the people on what happened with Duke. Even though he did not invite Duke out to H-Town, it was J.Prince Jr. So I feel that was J.Prince Jr. who was supposed to let the people know what happened to Duke. And along with that, also apologize to Duke's family for Duke not returning back home to his folks. See man, it's already on notice that Chicago GDs, they've been pressing J.Prince Jr. because again, they feel that J.Prince Jr., he's not telling everything. So at the same time, while I feel where Duke's girlfriend coming from, this is not on Boosie. Again, Boosie told the people what happened with Duke. Even though when he told the people, they still found a way to turn it on Boosie like he had something to do with it. So Boosie informing the people first, it never helped it. It basically hindered Boosie for a minute. Boosie couldn't do no shows in Chicago for about 2 weeks behind Duke being set up in H-Town because the people thought that it was Boosie affiliates that set up Duke and took his jewelry. But again, once the folks started to look deeper into the situation, they seen that no man, Boosie told everything he knew of what was going on. And that's the part of when Duke was walking with him, leaving a concert, walking through the parking garage. Boosie said they had a good conversation about investments and about Duke making Boosie some jewelry. So Boosie say, man, Duke was a cool cat. He don't understand why anybody would want to do that to him. Even though you have some folks saying that Duke, he was out in H-Town with a whole bunch of jewelry on. And wearing a lot of jewelry around people that's hungry, that's what it can lead to. But I told y'all, man, Duke, he actually was not walking around with a whole bunch of jewelry on. When he was at the concert, he only had one piece. Yeah, he had a bracelet and a watch on, but again, it's not to the extent like people were saying. The same jewelry piece that y'all seen Duke wear when he was standing next to Boosie at the dice game was the same jewelry piece that Duke wore to the concert the next day. See, what people don't know is it was a whole weekend event. It was not just a one-day turnaround situation, right? Duke, he got invited out to H-Town on Friday. He was supposed to have been set to leave out on Sunday after a business meeting that he was having with some other jewelers out there in H-Town. So with that being said, Duke's girlfriend knows that it was J.Prince Jr. MobTies that picked him up from the airport and picked him up from the hotel to take him to the private party event where they had the dice game at. Before we get into it, as always, let's first pay our respects to Chicago's own Duke the Jeweler and say rest in peace to Duke the Jeweler, condolences to his family, and much love to all my folks in Chicago. See, Duke's girlfriend is saying that's the whole reason why they went out to H-Town to hang out with J.Prince Jr. because he stated to them he was going to properly protect them and he was going to make sure they had a good time out there because that's what the MobTies do. And that's what J.Prince Jr. was telling Duke and his girlfriend. So again, Duke's girlfriend, she feels that since J.Prince Jr. MobTies was picking him up from the hotel, and matter of fact, it was J.Prince Jr. MobTies that picked up Duke from the hotel to take him to the concert. And it was the same ones in that black SUV that picked up Duke from the concert. So everybody know what happened to Duke when he left the concert. Again, as Boosie stated. See, what the people have to understand is that Boosie really didn't have to say anything. Like I'm trying to tell y'all, man, that was supposed to have been left up to J.Prince Jr. That was his role to inform the people on what happened to Chicago's own Duke the Jeweler. And matter of fact, it's messed up that it was Boosie the one to acknowledge what happened with Duke, and he apologized to Duke's family. Because again, Boosie know we don't have too many black jewelers, man. Boosie, he been in the game for a long time. He been running across a lot of jewelers from H-Town to Louisiana to ATL, I mean all around, right? So again, with that being said, that's the reason why Boosie took a liking to Duke. Because he was young and he was not reckless. You feel me? Boosie say he liked Duke because he had a head on his shoulders. See, I told y'all, man, there's a lot of folks in Chicago, they heated towards J.Prince Jr. for what happened with Duke, man. See, again, Duke, he was invested in his communities. He was putting single family parents into homes, man. He was moving families who needed assistance into homes, man. And this is something that he was doing on his own. So that's the reason why there's a lot of people in Chicago that respected Duke for what he stood on, man. Because he was a real stand-up guy. that really looked out for his community at a young age, man. So for him to not make it back home to his family, so for Duke to not make it back home to his son, is really messing a lot of people up. And again, to know that J.Prince Jr. and his pops is not doing everything in their power to catch the dudes that has something to do with Duke being set up, that further let the people know that it must be somebody affiliated to the MobTies that has something to do with this. Because again, J.Prince Jr., he ain't spoke on it, man. But he was the one that invited Duke out. How messed up is that? Same thing dealing with the pops. Now J.Prince, the pops, he was all over TakeOff situation because he knew how much press that would get. But dealing with Duke, a jeweler, not too many people knew that Duke was a jeweler out of Chicago. First of all, they never even knew that Duke was a jeweler. A lot of people were surprised to hear that a jeweler out of Chicago, a black jeweler out of Chicago, that he was set up in H-Town. I told y'all, man. I told y'all my point of view, man. I believe all this trickles back to the dice game. See, a lot of people knew that Duke, he was tagging their butt in the dice game. A lot of people was heated at that dice game because they ain't leave with the money that they came with. And we already know how dudes get in their feelings about losing a lot of money, man. So Duke wasn't only stanging them in dice. He was also letting the people know that, yeah, he makes jewelry. And he went and grabbed his Louis Vuitton bag full of jewelry to let the people know, yeah, this is what I do. That's the reason why Boosie say, I wanted him to make me a piece because I like what he does. So at the same time, while Duke was showing the people the jewelry he made, there were some guys watching him. They knew they wanted that bag. That's why if y'all pay attention to the whole story, Duke Louis Vuitton bag with over $2 million in jewelry is missing, never found. So Duke family, they want to know what happened to Duke and what happened to their jewelry. Because Duke, he runs a jewelry business with his family. Matter of fact, one of his cousins, Mando G, he was behind the scenes with Duke when it comes to the jewelry industry. Because Duke was the one that put Mando G on game about the different quality and styles and customs of jewelry. And Mando G know that Duke was not only teaching him that, but a bunch of other young cats in Chicago that wanted to get out the streets and do something better with their lives. Yeah, folks, you're right. Duke's girlfriend, his family, they don't need to be going at Boosie. They need to be hollering at J.Prince Jr. and they pops. Because a lot of folks already know that the pops, he got people in the department working for him. So that's the whole reason why J.Prince Jr. MobTies was not questioned behind Duke the Jeweler untimely demise. And that's the issue that a lot of people have, is that how is the person who invited out this guy is not the one to be questioned? So again, if Duke family want answers, they need to holler at the pops, J.Prince. I mean, look, the pops, he was the one to apologize for the whole TakeOff situation. And he wasn't even there. So why he ain't do it with Duke? Do them folks really got their hands in what happened with Duke the Jeweler? I ain't saying that they do, but it seems to be a possibility. Again, especially when you point out all the facts that J.Prince Jr. invited out Duke to H-Town. Part of that whole checking in ordeal, right? J.Prince Jr. MobTies was the one that picked up Duke from the airport and picked up Duke from the hotel to attend these different events with the MobTies. So who else would the people be looking at? That's the reason why the folks feel like, why haven't the HPD pulled up on J.Prince Jr. and his MobTies to question them about what really happened with Duke? And not only that, why haven't no major arrests have occurred yet? Y'all have to understand, man, that Duke, he was set up at the end of August. This is January going on February. The HPD is already deep into the TakeOff case, and they doing what they need to do based on that. And we not taking away from that. And Duke family is not taking anything away from the TakeOff case. They just saying the same way y'all handling that, y'all need to be handling Duke case the same way. Unless some people paid off to not properly handle it. But at the same time, it still points back to the fact that this should have never happened to TakeOff or Chicago's own Duke the Jeweler. And that's real talk, man. That's the reason why I always let my folks know, be aware of the people around you, man. And not only that, be aware of the places you're going. Because you never know who's watching you. But it still points back to the fact that us as black men, we need to protect each other better than what we're doing. Because what happened with TakeOff and Duke the Jeweler, it should have never happened, man. Especially being under the watch of J.Prince Jr. MobTies. And that's real. So that's the reason why as people, as black people, we need to do better, man. We need to protect the people that has the mindset to progress our communities. So that's the reason why always be aware and always stay prepared. But hey, we got more in store. As always, y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it's worth. Let's get this merch. Subscribe to the PDH Network.